What is up, guys? Welcome back, and today we are going to be talking about your guide to a perfect 2 days in Edinburgh. Let's get right into it. Alright, so I'm going to walk you through what I did in Edinburgh. Once again, this was my personal experience. At the end, I'll add in what I would do, what I wouldn't do again. So this trip was hands down the most spontaneous trip I've ever taken. It started out with me finding $500 tickets to Edinburgh, leaving in less than 24 hours. I hit up my buddy Tim from work, and he was down, and less than 24 hours later, we were in the air to Scotland. So we ended up getting into the city probably about 4 or 5 a.m., just when the sun was coming up. And it was incredibly empty. We had the entire city to ourselves just to walk around in. We had done no research on this. We went in completely blind and just started walking around the city. And sure enough, we found ourselves at the foot of Edinburgh Castle. We then went slightly east over to a place called Calton Hill, where there's a bunch of different monuments and structures, and walked around there for a bit. On top of that hill is probably the second best view of the city. Watch till the end and I'll give you the first. From there, we walked down Calton Hill and up Princes Street, where we got some much needed breakfast at that point, and then went over to the Edinburgh Castle. Now, thankfully, we were able to book our tickets online ahead of time. That's what I would recommend, so you don't have to stand in a massive line and fight somebody off for them. The castle was absolutely incredible. I've been to a fair number of castles at this point, and it was unlike anything I've ever seen. There were a bunch of different structures from a bunch of different time periods on the hill, and they all came together to give this piecemeal picture of Scottish history. One of my favorite things we did on the site was went to the National War Museum, which had a lot of cool paintings and a bunch of insane relics. We also got to go into something called the Chamber of the Stone of Destiny, which sounds insane. When the King of England is crowned, there is a special stone that, according to legend, has been used in coronation since the 1300s. On our way out of the castle and back up the Royal Mile, we ended up in St. Giles Cathedral, which is historically tied to John Knox, who was a famous Scottish reformer. After that, we were pretty tired, so we decided to go back to our hotel. Unfortunately, we didn't realize that our hotel didn't open until 3. I think it was noon at this point. So we basically ended up at a McDonald's where my friend Tim passed out, and I tried to get some photo editing done. Thankfully, we were able to check into the hotel, and we went out later that evening to go explore the city a bit more. The city at night was a totally different feel, and I'm glad that we went back and explored some more. We got dinner at a pub, and that was the end of day 1. We were thoroughly exhausted. We had covered a ton of ground. Thankfully, at this point, we knew the area and we knew where stuff was. We had debated going up to Loch Ness on a Viator tour, but we decided that there was still so much to see inside of Edinburgh that we were going to stay for a whole another day. So on day 2, we woke up and went right back to downtown. We found this beautiful church called the Parish Church of St. Cuthbert. Absolutely incredible, and had this series of gardens all around the castle. We went slightly west back to St. Mary's Episcopal Cathedral, where we had first arrived that morning. Instead of being kind of looming and daunting, this place was incredibly friendly. From there, we went slightly north to a place called Dean Village. Now, this is kind of out of the way, but I'd highly recommend, as it's this really tight-knit series of buildings and houses. It gives this beautiful atmosphere of the city. From there, we took a bus back to Princes Street, where we had some food in the area and explored the St. James Quarter shopping mall, which had another great view of the city. And at this point, we just kind of needed a breather, so we chilled out there for a bit. After that, we realized that we were in walking distance of Arthur's Seat, which is in Holyrood Park. Now, this place is famously known as the site where King Arthur ruled the entire UK. Now, take that with a grain of salt, but I'd like to believe in the legend. From the mall, we went slightly south to the Salisbury Crags, and then from there climbed up to Arthur's Seat. Now, this was a pretty easy hike, all things considered. If you're in moderate shape, this should be pretty easy. Now, I've seen a number of sunsets in my life, and there are certain sunsets that when you're watching it, you think, oh, I'm gonna tell my kids about this, or man, I'm gonna remember this for the rest of my life. And guys, this was one of them. We just sat up there for, I believe, about 2 hours and soaked it all in. Like I said, this had been a whirlwind of a trip that neither of us had been prepared for. and just looking at the skyline of Edinburgh, it was hard to believe that we were actually here. From there, we went back to the hotel. I ended up pulling an all-nighter because I realized with the time change I would be more screwed up if I slept. So from there, I kind of slugged it out to the airport and we flew back home. One thing I do want to mention, I got a comment from Lola23 on my reel about Scotland, asking about the safety aspect. Now, Scotland thankfully is one of the safest countries that I've been to. I walked around a ton at night and never felt in any sort of danger at all. If you do feel sketched out, I would suggest taking the bus or Ubering so you're with people. But thankfully the city is super walkable, it's very tight-knit. And in fact, of all the cities that I've been to, this is probably the most walkable, where the bus is really just an option if you need it. Alright, and that's the end of our video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm going to be putting out a series of these, so please like and subscribe for more. We will see you on the next one.